Okay, so you're thinking about starting a business, but you're kind of feeling stuck at the starting line, especially if your bank account is, well, a little emptier than you'd like it to be. We get it. That's why today we're diving into two sources that are going to help you turn that broke but brilliant energy into a business you can actually build.
Oh, I love that. Turn those lemons into lemonade. Business style.
Exactly. First, we have Alex Hormozi. From his video, I'm Broke, What Business Do I Start? It's a classic for a reason. Then we're going to look at how one guy, and his name is also, you guessed it, Alex, built $1 million affiliate marketing business while working a full-time job.
Wow. A real-world success story to show us it can be done, even if you're not starting with a ton of capital.
Right. And Hormozi, he kicks things off with this super simple framework. He calls it the 3 Ps. And it's all about finding a business idea at the intersection of your pain, your profession, and your passion. I just love how this really gets you thinking about what unique value you can offer.
Yeah, it's not just about chasing trends or copying what everybody else is doing.
Right. He gives some really relatable examples. Like he talks about this mom with 9 kids who turned her lunch packing system into a whole business.
9 kids, wow. That's a pain point for sure.
I know, right? Talk about a pain point.
But it's a brilliant example, though, of how everyday problems can be turned into profitable solutions.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the fact that you don't need some groundbreaking invention to start a business. Sometimes the solution is right in front of us. The things that frustrate us, those are what other people are out there looking for.
Yeah, like necessity is the mother of invention, right? And
right.
Sometimes that invention turns into a pretty sweet side hustle.
Or even a full-blown empire, right? Spanx. That started because the founder just wanted to make things look a little smoother under her clothes.
Okay, that's an image I didn't need. The point taken. And it doesn't have to be, just limited to personal struggles. Hormozi also talks about this registered dietitian. She was killing it at her hospital job, but she was super stressed. And, she was a pro at billing insurance. So she started this whole business teaching other dietitians how to do it.
Smart. It's a classic example of just leveraging your professional skills and your knowledge. It's so easy to take for granted the things that we're good at. But those very skills could be in high demand.
That's so true. We're all experts in something, right?
Totally.
Whether it's like coding or writing or organizing or even like how to get a stain out of your carpet. I bet someone out there is willing to pay you for that expertise.
Absolutely. It's all about recognizing what you bring to the table and then finding a way to package it into a product or service.
Yeah, and the best way to identify those marketable skills, I think, is to think about the things people are always asking you for help with. Okay, but my favorite example has to be Hormozi's own story. This guy was obsessed with fitness, like reading every book, trying every workout. Basically a walking encyclopedia of gym knowledge. All his friends were like, dude, you have to open a gym. And the rest is history.
He just went for it. That's the power of enthusiasm. I mean, when you're really passionate about something, it's contagious. People are drawn to that energy.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. He says passion alone isn't enough. You have to figure out who you're serving. He calls it identifying your who. And this is where it gets interesting, because he breaks it down into 3 categories: people like you, people you've helped before, and underserved markets.
Well, I like that he gives us a framework.
Yeah.
Because it can feel really overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're new to business.
For sure.
Where do you even begin?
Right. And the people like you category just really stood out to me. I mean, it makes sense. You understand their struggles, their desires, even their language.
Yeah.
Because you've been there.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a powerful starting point, too, because it can lead to such an authentic business built on empathy and understanding. And let's face it, authenticity is a major selling point.
Oh, yeah.
People are tired of being marketed to. They want to connect with real people who actually get them.
Totally.
And then when you've experienced the problem yourself, you're way more invested in finding a solution.
Absolutely.
And that passion, it translates into a better product or service.
So true. And then there's the category of people you've helped before, even if it wasn't like in a formal business setting. He tells this funny story about this woman who paid him $100 for dietary advice at a pizza parlor of all places.
What? Of all the places to give dietary advice, a pizza parlor.
Right.
I love that anecdote, though, because it really shows how even informal help can be a sign of a potential business opportunity.
For sure.
It's about recognizing those moments where you've provided value to someone, even in a casual setting, and seeing them as stepping stones to something bigger.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, people actually want my advice.
Exactly. It's like a validation.
And that advice could be your ticket to ditching your 9-to-5.
Yes.
Okay, so then of course there's the, I guess, more traditional approach of identifying underserved markets. And this is where you do your research, analyze trends, look for areas where there's a clear demand but not enough supply.
Yeah, that one might require a bit more legwork, though.
Yeah.
But it can be a really effective way to find a profitable niche.
Yeah, it's like being a detective for business opportunities, right?
Exactly.
You're looking for clues, connecting the dots, and figuring out where you can fit in.
Love it.
Okay, so let's say you've got this general idea of who you want to serve. Hormozzi's like, pump the brakes. He's all about getting super specific with your target audience, even if it feels counterintuitive.
I know, right? It seems like you'd be limiting your potential customers. But actually, the more specific your niche, the more you can actually charge for your services.
Yeah, he calls this narrowing down your avatar. And he suggests considering at least 3 of these factors: age, gender, profession, their biggest problems, and what they're most interested in.
Oh, that makes sense.
So instead of saying, I help women with their finances, you might say, I help female entrepreneurs over 40 who are struggling to manage their cash flow and want to invest in real estate.
Right. The specificity is key.
Yeah.
Because it allows you to tailor your messaging, your marketing, and even your product to a very specific group of people.
Yeah, and the more you niche down, the less you have to compete with the big guys.
Right.
And the more you can position yourself as the expert in that specific area.
Totally. And you can charge a premium for that expertise.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between hiring a general contractor versus like a specialist who only builds eco-friendly tree houses.
Okay, that is a very specific example, but I get your point. The more specialized you are, the less competition you have, and the more valuable your services become. And Hormozzi, he gives this great example of time management. He's like, if you're selling general time management advice, you might be able to charge like $19 for an ebook or something. But if you're selling time management for garden and power tool salespeople, now that's a high-ticket product right there.
Hold on, wait. Garden and power tool salespeople.
Yeah. Is that even a thing?
I know, right?
I mean, maybe not. But the point is, the more specific you get, the more you can tailor your offering to a very specific need, and you can charge accordingly.
Okay, so it's counterintuitive.
It is.
But it works.
It does.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Yeah.
You figure out what you're good at, who needs that specific help, and then you position yourself as like the go-to expert for that very specific problem.
Precisely. It's about finding that sweet spot where your skills and your passions align with the market need.
Absolutely.
And then it's all about communicating that value in a way that really connects with your ideal customer. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the what, the business idea. We got the who, our target customer. Now let's talk about the how. Like, how do you actually sell your product or service?
All right, we need to get down to brass tacks.
Yeah. Hormozzi says it's all about highlighting both the positive outcomes and the pains you're helping people avoid.
It's not just about what your product does. It's about the transformation it enables. Like, you're selling a better version of themselves, a solution to their problems, a path to achieving their goals.
So you're like painting a picture of their life after they've used your product.
Exactly. On the positive side, you're highlighting the outcomes they desire. Maybe it's making things easier, faster, or guaranteeing specific results. You're showing them their dream scenario.
Okay, so it's like, imagine waking up every morning and feeling energized and ready to tackle your to-do list.
I love it.
Great.
You're tapping into their aspirations and showing them how your product or service can help them get there. But then you also have to address the negative, like the pain points they're actually trying to avoid. This is where you acknowledge their current struggles, their frustrations, their fears.
So it's not enough to just show them the rainbow. You have to acknowledge the rain they're currently stuck in.
I love that analogy. You're validating their experience, and you're positioning yourself as the umbrella. That can shield them from the storm.
Yeah.
It's about making them feel seen and understood.
I'm seeing how this ties into marketing psychology.
Totally.
It's not just about listing features and benefits. It's about tapping into their emotions and desires.
It absolutely is. And Hormozzi, he puts it so perfectly when he says, it's about either giving them more of what they want or taking away what they don't want.
So simple, but so powerful.
I know, right?
Okay, so we've got the good and the bad. But how do we actually package this into a compelling message?
Well, lucky for us, Hormozzi has a formula for that too. He calls it the Awesome Money Mad Lib.
Okay, that does sound pretty Mad Libby.
It does, right?
I'm intrigued.
It's basically a sentence that goes like this. I help who get good stuff without bad stuff.
Okay, I can see how that's like a Mad Lib.
It is.
But it's forcing you to distill your business idea down.
It does.
Into its core essence.
Who do you serve? What value do you provide?
Yeah.
And what pain points are you alleviating?
I'm already trying to come up with one for myself.
Right.
It's like a little brainstorming exercise.
Exactly.
In a sentence.
And the best part is you can play around with it until you find a version that really clicks.
Oh, yeah.
Want to try one together?
Sure.
Okay. How about this? I help overwhelmed entrepreneurs create profitable online courses without sacrificing their free time or sanity.
Ooh, that's good. I like it. It's clear, it's concise, it speaks directly to a target audience.
It does.
I'm feeling inspired.
That's the power of a good framework. It gives you the structure to work within, but also the flexibility to adapt it to your unique business.
Yeah. Okay, so we got our money Mad Lib nailed down, but Hormozi throws in one more bonus tip. He calls it the unique mechanism. What is that all about?
Okay, so the unique mechanism. This is like your secret sauce, your proprietary process. That really sets you apart from the competition. Is what makes your offering special and different.
So it's like having a signature move, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael Jordan had his fadeaway jump shot, and I've got, well, I'm still working on my signature move.
We all are, right?
Yeah.
But in business, it could be a specific methodology, a unique set of tools, or even just a catchy name for your process. Think like P90X and their muscle confusion.
Oh, yeah.
That's a unique mechanism right there.
Okay, so it's not about being different for the sake of being different. It's about having a genuine point of differentiation that actually benefits your customers.
Exactly. It's about offering something unique that solves their problems in a way that no one else can.
Yes.
And that's what makes your business stand out in this really crowded market.
Okay, that's a lot of information from just one source, but I have to say, I'm already feeling a lot less broke and clueless and a lot more ready to brainstorm.
Me too.
Yeah.
But hold on tight because we're about to dive into a real-world example that shows how all of these principles can be applied to build a thriving online business.
You mean the guy named Alex who built the $1 million affiliate marketing website?
That's the one.
Okay, talk about inspiring.
And his story is a testament to the fact that entrepreneurship isn't all or nothing. You can start small, build momentum, and eventually transition to full-time when the time is right.
Okay, I'm ready to hear how he did it. Hit me with the details.
Okay, so first we need to understand what affiliate marketing is. Like, what is it exactly? So it's like being a digital matchmaker button. Instead of setting up dates, you're connecting people with products or services that they were looking for. And when they make a purchase through your unique link, you earn a commission.
Okay, so you're kind of like a virtual salesperson, but without all the pressure of cold calls and awkward elevator pitches.
Exactly. It's all about providing like helpful information, reviews, comparisons, and then guiding people towards the products or services that best meet their needs. And if they decide to buy, you get a little thank you in the form of a commission.
Okay, that makes sense. So where does Alex's $1 million website fit into all this?
So Alex's site, Fin versus Fin, was all about comparing different health and wellness products. So think supplements, fitness trackers, meditation apps, that kind of thing. He was basically acting as a trusted guide, helping people navigate this overwhelming world of wellness options.
I can definitely relate to that. There are so many products out there, it's hard to know where to even begin.
Right, exactly. And that's where Alex saw an opportunity. So he was working at a fintech company, and he noticed a surge in telemedicine startups getting massive funding. And he realized that there wasn't a lot of information online comparing these different services. So he decided to create a website that did just that.
So he was tapping into both his professional knowledge of the finance world and his personal interest in health and wellness.
Absolutely. And he was also tapping into a growing market with low competition, which, if we think back to Hormozi's framework, is kind of a recipe for success.
For sure. Okay, so he had this great idea and a niche with potential. But how did he actually turn that into $1 million business? Like, did he just throw up a website and watch the money roll in?
I wish it were that easy. But Alex actually took a very strategic and, I would say, scrappy approach. He knew that building a successful website takes time, effort, and a lot of content creation.
So no get-rich-quick schemes here.
Nope, definitely not. Alex wrote the first 60 articles himself, learned how to use WordPress, and spent months building up his site. before even thinking about monetization.
Wow, that's dedication. It sounds like he was in it for a long haul.
He was. And that's a key takeaway here. Success rarely happens overnight, especially in the online world. It takes patience, persistence, and a willingness to put in the work up front.
Yeah, it's like building a house, right? You need a solid foundation before you can start decorating.
Exactly. And in the case of a website, that foundation is high-quality content. That provides value to your audience.
Content is king. Got it. But how did Alex get people to actually find his content? Was it all about SEO and keywords?
SEO was definitely a big part of his strategy. But he didn't just focus on stuffing keywords into his articles. He really emphasized the importance of creating content that matched user intent.
What does that mean exactly?
It means understanding what people are actually searching for when they type in certain phrases. Like, what are their questions? What are their problems? What solutions are they seeking?
So it's not just about ranking high on Google. It's about providing the most relevant and helpful information for the people who are actually searching for it.
Exactly. And that's what Google rewards. They want to show their users the best possible results. So if your content is genuinely helpful and informative, you're more likely to rank higher and attract more organic traffic.
Okay, that makes sense. But I have to imagine there's more to it than just creating great content. What other strategies did Alex use to grow his website?
Well, one of the things that really impressed me about Alex's approach was his willingness to experiment and diversify his income streams. So he didn't just rely on organic traffic from Google, he also leveraged direct partnerships with brands.
So he wasn't just a middleman, he was actually building relationships with the companies he was promoting.
Exactly. And that allowed him to negotiate better deals, get exclusive offers, and even create custom content that was tailored to his audience.
Smart. So like, instead of just waiting for people to find his website, he was proactively going out and creating opportunities.
Absolutely. And he wasn't afraid to think outside the box. For example, he realized that a lot of people were searching for comparisons between specific products. So he created a series of versus articles like brand X versus brand Y.
Brilliant.
Right.
It's like he was anticipating what people were going to search for and creating content that was perfectly aligned with their needs.
Exactly. He was tapping into that user intent that we talked about earlier.
So he was creating great content, optimizing it for search engines, and building relationships with brands. Anything else?
Well, he also understood the importance of staying ahead of the competition. He knew that the online world is constantly evolving, so he made a point of keeping his content fresh and up to date.
Oh yeah, that's so important. I've definitely clicked on articles that were outdated or irrelevant and just immediately bounced back to the search results.
Right. And Google actually takes content freshness into account when it's ranking websites. So if your content is stale and outdated, it's going to hurt your rankings.
Okay, so keep it fresh, keep it relevant, keep it helpful.
Got it. But how did Alex manage to do all of this? While working a full-time job, I could barely keep up with my laundry.
Right. It wasn't easy, that's for sure. But Alex was incredibly disciplined and strategic with his time. And he also understood the importance of delegation. And he started outsourcing tasks as soon as he could afford it.
So he was building a team, even before he went full-time with his business. He was. So he started by hiring writers to help him create content. Then he brought on a virtual assistant to handle administrative tasks, and eventually expanded his team to include an editor, a designer, and a web developer.
Wow, that's a whole team.
It is.
Sounds like he was building a real company, not just a side hustle.
He was, and that's a key takeaway here. As your business grows, you can't do everything yourself. You need to learn to trust others and delegate tasks so you can really focus on the things that you do best.
Work on your business, not in your business, right?
Exactly, and that's what allowed Alex to scale his business to the point where he could eventually quit his job and focus on it full-time.
Oh, so he was creating great content, optimizing it for search, building relationships, staying ahead of the competition, and delegating tasks. Anything else?
There's one more thing I want to highlight about Alex's approach, and it's something we haven't really touched on yet: the power of diversification.
Yeah.
So he didn't just stick to one website. He eventually built a portfolio of 6 sites, all focusing on slightly different aspects of health and wellness.
So he was spreading his bets.
Exactly. By creating multiple websites, he was able to tap into different niches, reach a wider audience, and create multiple streams of income.
That's a smart move. So it's like if one website is having a slow month, the others can pick up the slack.
Exactly. And it also allows you to test different strategies
and
see what works best in different markets.
Okay, so diversification is key. I'm taking notes here. But even with all of these strategies, I have to imagine there were some challenges along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No entrepreneurial journey is without its bumps in the road. And in Alex's case, one of the biggest challenges he faced was dealing with the constant changes in the online world.
Like what kind of changes?
Well, Google is constantly updating its algorithms, which can have a huge impact on website traffic. Social media platforms are constantly changing their rules and features. And, consumer trends are always evolving.
So it's like you're trying to hit a moving target.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be adaptable and willing to pivot when necessary. Alex talks about how he had to completely revamp his content strategy several times in response to algorithm updates.
So it's not just about setting up a website and letting it run on autopilot. You have to be actively engaged and willing to make adjustments.
Absolutely. And that can be challenging, especially when you're juggling a full-time job and other responsibilities. But it's also what makes entrepreneurship so exciting and rewarding. You're constantly learning, growing, and adapting to new challenges.
It sounds like Alex's journey was a real roller coaster ride.
It definitely was. But it also had a pretty amazing ending.
You mean when he sold his business?
That's right. After several years of hard work and dedication, Alex decided to sell his portfolio of websites for a very tidy profit. And this brings us to another important aspect of entrepreneurship that I think often gets overlooked: defining your exit strategy.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, most people just focus on the starting line, not the finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of launching a business.
Yeah.
And building it up. But it's also really important to think about the long term. Like, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to run this business forever? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to pass it on to your kids? Having that roadmap in place can help you make better decisions along the way.
It's like having a roadmap for your business, not just a starting point.
Exactly. And having that roadmap can also make the journey a lot less stressful, knowing that you have a plan for the future.
Okay, so Alex built $1 million business, sold it, and rode off into the sunset. Sounds like a dream come true.
It definitely was a success story. But before we get too caught up in the fairy tale ending, I think it's important to remember that Alex's journey wasn't without its challenges and setbacks.
So it wasn't all sunshine and roses?
Definitely not. He talks about the long hours, the sleepless nights, the constant pressure to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's like even when you're passionate about your work, it can still be really hard.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, because entrepreneurship is often really romanticized. We see the success stories, but we don't always hear about the struggles and sacrifices that went into achieving that success.
For sure. So it's not always easy, but it can be incredibly rewarding.
Exactly. And Alex's story is proof of that.
I'm curious, what was his advice to his younger self? Like, knowing what he knows now, would he do anything differently?
That's a great question. He actually said, you can try to engineer the outcome as much as possible from the start. But the reality is you can't see around very many corners, and you're going to have to pivot a bunch.
So no matter how much you plan, there are always going to be surprises along the way.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be flexible and adaptable and to be willing to learn from your mistakes.
So be prepared to pivot, embrace the unexpected, and learn from your mistakes. Got it.
And don't forget the most important piece of advice. Just get started.
It's so simple, but it's true. It's easy to get bogged down in the planning and the research, but at some point, you just have to take the leap.
Exactly. And that's what makes these two sources so valuable. They provide both practical frameworks, like Hormozi's 3 Ps and his Mad Lib formula, and then inspiring real-world examples, like Alex's journey to $1 million business.
A 1-2 punch.
I love it.
Of inspiration and an actionable advice.
And both of them are saying the same thing. You can do this. You have the power to create the business and the life that you want.
Okay, I'm feeling pumped. But before we wrap things up, I want to throw it back to you, dear listener. What's resonating most with you from these sources?
Yeah, was it the simplicity of Hormozi's framework, the tangible steps he outlines for, identifying your niche and crafting your message? Or was it the inspiring story of Alex, proving that success is achievable, even with a full-time job and limited resources?
Or maybe it was something else entirely. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Because ultimately, the most important takeaway from all of this is that you have the power to create the business and the life that you want.
You know what else really struck me about Alex's story? It's how he wasn't afraid to experiment, even if it meant failing sometimes. Like, he tried paid advertising, even though his main focus was on organic traffic.
Right, and that willingness to test new strategies. I think it's so important for growth. Not every experiment is going to be a home run.
Right.
But even the so-called failures, they provide valuable data and insights.
They're like, you don't know what works until you try it.
Exactly.
And sometimes what you think will work totally flops, but then something unexpected takes off.
Right, and that kind of ties back to what Hormozi said about his unique mechanism. Like, he wasn't afraid to create something catchy and memorable, even if it wasn't like the traditional approach.
Yeah, like who would have thought that muscle confusion would become a thing?
Right.
But it worked for P90X because it gave them a unique selling proposition.
And it gave people a way to talk about their workouts. It created a buzz, and that's what good marketing is all about.
Okay, so don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to stand out. And don't be afraid to try something a little different.
I love it.
And speaking of trying something different, remember how Alex built his team? He didn't follow the traditional hiring playbook.
Yeah, he really didn't.
He started by outsourcing writing. Then he brought on a VA. And eventually he had this whole team of editors, designers, and developers.
Right. And it's a great example of how entrepreneurship, it often requires creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't always have to follow the conventional path.
Right.
Sometimes it's about finding unconventional solutions that fit your unique needs and resources.
Totally. And it also highlights the importance of delegation. As your business grows, you can't do everything yourself.
No, you can't.
You need to learn to trust others and let go of some of that control so you can focus on the things that you do best.
And if we connect that back to Hormozi's framework, it's often about honing in on your unique mechanism and finding ways to systematize your processes.
Yeah.
It's about creating a business that can run smoothly, even when you're not directly involved, in every single detail.
Which ultimately frees you up to focus on the big picture, right? The vision, the strategy, the growth of your business.
And isn't that the ultimate goal? To create a business that gives you freedom and flexibility, not one that ties you down.
Absolutely.
It's about designing a business that supports the life you want to live, not the other way around.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, I'm ready.
Remember that the journey of entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be ups and downs, challenges and triumphs, but with the right mindset, a solid framework, and a willingness to adapt and learn, you can achieve incredible things.
Yes, you can.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be featuring your story on the deep dive, inspiring a whole new generation of entrepreneurs. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building those dreams.